We can look in an unlikely place for an example of harmony between the risk profiles of the heart and the brain, the traditional family. And no, the author does not mean the nuclear family of the 1950s and its preferences for plastic, television, and patriarchal dominance. Whether the traditional family is the best structure in today's conditions is a separate debate that we will forego, since the rapid transition from manual labor to intellectual labor has shifted the influence and validity of traditional gender roles. However, since tradition is the culmination of thousands of years of trial and error, they aren't completely useless. For our purposes, they illustrate an example of balanced risk profiles. To straighten out our definitions, the traditional family has a matriarch that acts as a family manager. She spends much of her time with her children, so she can advocate on their behalf and budget the family's money towards what is best for them. In terms of finance, her role is to focus on managing and preserving the family's wealth. The patriarch, on the other hand, focuses on acquiring wealth. He leaves their home to risk physical harm, reputational damage, and spiritual satisfaction in hopes of building something better for his family. As anyone who knows anything about finance can tell you, acquiring wealth and preserving wealth are two entirely different skill sets that require different mindsets, risk appetite and risk aversion. In this traditional family, the matriarch behaves like the brain by avoiding risks to preserve wealth, while the patriarch behaves like the heart by taking risks to acquire wealth. In a cohesive traditional relationship, activities are allocated based on each individual's strengths. The matriarch leads activities that require a risk-averse mindset, while the patriarch leads activities that require a risk-taking mindset. Together, they harmonize by dividing and conquering. This is a gross oversimplification of the concept of gender roles, as there are many other factors that influence these besides risk profiles. Further, it should be clear to the reader that this harmonious balance of risk profiles can manifest itself in other ways beyond the traditional family structure. The traditional family simply serves as an example in history of balanced risk profiles. The traditional family model can teach us how to balance different risk profiles within ourselves. Risk aversion is best in some scenarios, while risk appetite is better in others. Nassim Taleb refers to this as barbell strategy, where balance is achieved by choosing between two poles of a spectrum while avoiding the middle. Both approaches average to the middle of the spectrum, but they are drastically different strategies. Simply stated, the balance between the heart and the brain is a determination of whether a situation warrants risk aversion or risk appetite. This determination requires you to understand which of your thoughts stem from the heart and which originate within the brain. It can be difficult to recognize the origin of your thoughts and desires because the heart and brain operate from different paradigms and hence speak two different languages. Imagine two people talking over each other in different languages. Without close attention to detail, the resultant noise resembles an unintelligible third language. If you create an environment where you can filter out one language at a time, you can understand who is talking and what is being communicated. We can do exactly this with the heart and brain. As we previously discussed, the heart and brain are governed by their upstream consumption habits. We can filter the noise of the heart and brain into intelligible language by shaping the quality and quantity of the material we consume. First and foremost, the excess noise needs to be periodically cut to effectively understand what the heart and brain whisper in each ear. This is what the personal development experts call self-reflection. Although cliché, the importance of self-reflection cannot be overstated, especially within a culture of hustle and bustle. Self-reflection requires the absence of external stimulus, which creates an environment that allows you to idly contemplate your thoughts and feelings. This can look like formal meditation, written meditation through journaling, or an absent-minded hobby like gardening. Contrary to popular sentiment, you don't always have to be doing something productive to be productive. The remaining chapters of this book intend to serve as a guided meditation, since they help clarify the author's process for reflecting on the heart and brain's inputs, and 2 may inspire you to explore new ways of viewing yourself and the world. While self-reflection is a critical way to stop the flow of consumption, it is not a sustainable solution. Unless you wish to live as a hermit, consumption is part of life and must be resumed at some point. The author does not wish to prescribe an appropriate balance between time spent in consumption and reflection, since that is dependent on a multitude of factors that are highly personal to each individual. However, we can discuss some guidelines surrounding the quality of your consumption habits, since, as stated in previous chapters, everything you consume influences your thoughts, desires, and morals. Adding the slightest margin of skepticism around what you consume is a great way to raise the standards of those cybernetic influences. The quality of your consumption habits and downstream thoughts and feelings can dramatically improve from asking yourself a simple, is this influencing me in a positive or negative manner? The author's approach is a ruthlessness towards the negative. This includes music with messages of self-pity, TV shows that leave the viewer feeling violated, and social media influencers that prey off insecurities and outrage. The scope of this book isn't to preach about how to improve your consumption habits, as there are plenty of books out there that have broken this down to a science. Directionally speaking, cleaning those upstream consumption habits have a critical impact on your downstream decisions, but the focus of this book will be on self-reflection because it is a prerequisite for catalyzing any internal change. The guided meditation in the remainder of this book provides a framework intended to create harmony between the heart and brain through open expression. Like a mediator between fighting friends, this framework creates an environment that facilitates authentic expression of both parties' concerns. From there, the framework implores us to piece together our chaotic thoughts into a cohesive structure reflecting our best interests, not the interests of our consumption habits. The first step is an understanding and assessment of the worldview we operate from. This includes the understanding of our principles and the generation of a vision that provides us a sense of direction. With our principles and vision in mind, we can then assess the specific situation ahead of us. This includes a recognition of the individual risks and rewards of a situation. Visualization can help us picture life after each decision, including favorable and unfavorable results from a situation's risks and rewards. From here, we weave our principles into this situation by evaluating the impact of each individual risk and reward. Then we take a rough probability assessment of each risk and reward. Following a probability assessment, we will evaluate confidence where there are fat tails and potential mitigation paths. The potential mitigation paths help us marry our brain's assessment of the situation with the heart's vision. The path is a bit convoluted to digest from words alone, so a bird's eye view of this process can be found in Appendix A. Since your brain is wired to understand action over concepts, the framework of this book revolves around exercises that demonstrate the thought process, but by no means are these specific exercises prescriptive for good decision making. Let's use the following example to guide us through this meditation. You are at a crossroad in your career and need to choose between the following two options. Option A, safe 9-to-5 job with good pay and great benefits. Option B, unsteady work with little pay and no benefits. If you ask the brain, the obvious answer is option A. But what if option B involves starting a business doing work you've always dreamed of doing, something your heart yearns for? How do you choose now? Let's first take some time to reflect on what is most important to you.